Greetings friends, and welcome to this edition of Art and Coffee, the video series dedicated to helping you find and forge your own unique voice in the realms of art and visual storytelling. As always, this is yours truly, Gabe Dunston, and I can't thank you enough for joining me today. What a pleasure to have you. Today's coffee is the Bean Martin blend from Larry's Coffee, located in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is more or less the premier coffee company for Raleigh. I like Oak City and Countercultural a little bit better, but I haven't had their coffees in a while, so I thought, you know what, let's pick it up. And the name Bean Martin, come on, you gotta give it up for that kind of pun, man. It's the best. So, Larry's Coffee, Bean Martin. Dark and elegant, with notes of bittersweet cocoa and berry. Our quest was to achieve the richness of a dark roast while retaining the complexity of flavor. Ah, the sweet taste of success. Or that's what it says on the bag. I tell you what, you know what? It's not bad. It's not bad. Like I'm gonna start drinking some more Larry's now because this is all right. Now the trick was, not that complex of a flavor. I mean, not bad. But, you know, it's a dark roast. And Larry's beans are not typically too complex, I will say. Which is why, you know, usually not really for me. But hey, I digress. Enough about the coffee, let's talk about art. It's that time of year again, my friends. It's October. It's the beginning of autumn, where the long, hot, humid summer of North Carolina finally abates, where the wind carries with it just a slightly cooler temperature. You can leave your windows open and relax. October brings with it the promise of Halloween, my favorite holiday since I was a little kid. Truth be told, I've always been something of a closet goth kid. I love creepy stuff. And as a kid, you get to dress up creepy and go around house to house and get free candy for it. How cool is that? And as an adult, you get to dress up like an absolute crazy person, decorate your yard like you are that house in the neighborhood. You know the one I mean. The one that's like, oh, we don't go there. Except when you decorate your house that way, suddenly you're the house that everybody goes to. And you get to look crazy and hand out the candy. And a fine young man by the name of Jake Parker found a way to make this month even better. Master Parker noticed that his pen and ink skills were a mite lacking, so he created for himself a drawing challenge where he would create a finished pen and ink drawing every day of the month of October, and he dubbed it Inktober. And as somebody who is colorblind, loves black and white line art, loves pen and ink, loves October, loves Halloween, loves creepy stuff, it is almost as though Master Parker, God bless him, made this challenge and made it popular just for me, just to make this month better. And so here now today, you and I, we're going to talk about Inktober, and we are going to talk about specifically how I celebrate one of the greatest months of the year. Let's get into it. First and foremost, the thing that you must understand is that Inktober was made and developed so that a guy named Jake could get better at pen and ink drawing and create positive drawing habits, get used to making something every day for a month. Now, making a finished bit of artwork every day for 31 days, that is a challenge. That is a marathon. That's a lot. I don't do that. Mr. Parker did, and, you know, just high kudos for this guy and high kudos for anybody else who finishes their pen and ink drawing every day of the month. The point of it, however, is that it is a challenge. It is not a contest. It is a challenge, something you do just to make yourself better and to grow. It is not a contest. It is not an institution. It does not have hard and fast rules. It has very loose rules, which I will read to you now. The quote-unquote official rules of Inktober on the Inktober.com website that is now created and developed and trademarked by Mr. Jake Parker. Good on him, smart business moves. Rule number 1, make a drawing in ink. You can do a pencil underdrawing if you want. Rule number 2, post it somewhere. Rule number 3, hashtag it with Inktober or Inktober and the year. Rule number 4, repeat. Note, you can do it daily, or go the half marathon route and post every other day, or just do the 5K and post once a week. Whatever you decide, just be consistent. Inktober is about growing and improving and forming positive habits, so the more consistent you are, the better you become. That's it. Those are the official rules. And now I'm going to tell you about the rules that I break when I'm making my Inktobers. For me personally, most of the artwork that I make is towards telling a specific story. It's usually in the form of a kid's book or in the graphic novel that I've been making for the past 6 years. And at the time of this recording, I'm kickstarting book 3. And if you were to check it out at purgatory-pub.com, I'd sure appreciate it. But that means that there's not a whole lot of art being made just for art's sake. Like, every bit of art that I make is something of a tool. It moves a story forward, or it develops a character. And what that means is I don't have a whole lot of just standalone illustrations that just exist for fun. So the way that I use Inktober is I've made my own little idiom, my own little art form that I very maturely call Inky Dinks. And you are looking at one of my Inky Dinks in progress right now. Here are my personal rules. It is made on the same paper I make comics. This is 100-pound Hammermill 11x17 cardstock. So my Inky Dinks are on white paper. Has to be white paper. It's 11x17. And my personal rules are it has to be flat black and flat white. Do not reach for my gray markers. My gray markers I first began using to kind of, I told myself I was doing it to expand my art, but what I was actually doing was using it as a crutch because I was not confident enough to throw down spot blacks. And fun fact, cross-hatching for shading, that is an expert level move. Cross-hatching is something that amateurs and novices, much as I was, cross-hatching is something that we reach for very quickly and very early on in our art lives and our art process because we know how to make little lines. However, applying cross-hatching well, that's an expert level move. That is tough stuff. And so my own Inktobers, my own little Inky Dinks as I call them, and I'm becoming more and more embarrassed by that name by the second, I used cross-hatching very sparingly. I used it not at all at first, and then very sparingly. And before I would use cross-hatching, I would add textures to add my shading to the various characters and situations and portraits I was drawing. Here now, as you're watching, I am making a little portrait of Nosferatu, the original silent film character. I love the character so much, it's timeless for so many reasons, and the collection of shapes that make up this character just make me so happy. The long, spindly fingers, those incredible claws at the end of each hand, that very strange, round yet conical, sharp face. Now this drawing is much sharper than the original guy, but this is the other part of what makes Inktober so much fun for me. It's because I'm making an individual illustration. I don't have to worry about following a model sheet. I don't have to worry about consistency. I just make the single character, the single image, the way that I want to, which means I get to play with shapes and just play. Just play like a little kid using, these pencil and pen lines as my Legos and just make the shapes that I want because I want to. What fun. Like, I like to dress up crazy, and my wife and I, and my daughter, she's into it now, decorate the yard and look silly so that I can still have the same fun I did as a kid. Instead of collecting enough candy to give me type 2 diabetes, I hand out that amount of candy to the neighborhood, and it's just a way to capture the thing that made youth incredible, and it is the ability to approach almost any endeavor with the spirit of play. And that's kind of the secret behind Inktober. If you want to participate in this challenge, the name of the game is to play. So many of my Inktober drawings, so many of my Inky Dinks, I'll sit down without a thought in my head, no planning, and I just start drawing the shapes that I want. Just start playing with shapes until the shapes start coming together and forming a character or a monster or a scene, and then I just start fleshing out the scene. And in this particular case, I saw both the original photographs of Nosferatu and the creature box sketch of Nosferatu, and the shapes are just so much fun to watch. I'm overcome with this feeling of, oh man, I want to play too. And so here we go. That's what I'm doing. And that's what all of my Inktober drawings are. I want to play too, and here we go. So let's reiterate. My personal rules are: it has to be on 11 by 17 paper, has to be flat, black and white, and I guess that's it. Yep. Finished drawing, 11 by 17, flat, black and white. And what I also do is I try to treat the paper in such a way that composition becomes a thing. Like, treat it like a portrait, treat it like a painting, where I'm not just putting a character in the middle of a sheet of paper and putting it out into the world. I'm composing something that takes up the paper in a very specific way. If you look at this drawing, I want you to look at the little spindly speech bubble with a picture of a heart in it that my hand is currently covering. That was included as an afterthought because that area of the paper was left blank while I was penciling, and I just couldn't let that stand. So this is also part of the challenge for me is composing these things like portraits and whatnot. In grade school, God bless her, Mrs. Eason, my art teacher, had this phrase. She was think if Bob Ross was a grade school art teacher, that's who this woman was. She was just lovely. And Bob Ross says, we don't make mistakes, we just make happy accidents, and God bless him. Mrs. Eason told us mess-ups are fix-ups, because we would mess up and be like, could I have another sheet of paper, could I have an eraser, and she's like, no, it's take a look at it and see what you can do to solve the mistake that you made. Mess-ups are fix-ups. And it was infuriating when it's just like, oh no, I just messed up. But it was also just such a wonderful challenge to give kids, and such a testament to why art is so important to teach little kids, because this problem solving, this creative problem solving is such a skill that helps in the rest of life, and is definitely put to the test when you start getting into things like if you're more science inclined, if you get into engineering, that kind of problem solving stretches your brain in such a valuable way. So here in this image, I had a poor composition. Too much of the page is left blank and it's off balance and it doesn't work. So how do I fill that space in a way that is very much me? And much like the director Sam Raimi, I love creepy stuff, but I also just love comedy so much, and I just can't help myself. So I thought a speech bubble with a heart in it would just be a nice little funny dig to throw into this guy, and to just give people, I have difficulty describing it. Needless to say, all I can say it's very me. It's a very me thing to do, so I've done it, and that's why we're here. So that's how I do my Inktobers, that's how I make my Inky Dinks, and it served me in very good stead, because very recently I was actually offered to frame artwork and put it up in an art gallery for an art show, and almost all of my artwork are finished comic pages and finished kids book pages. How do you put that into an art gallery? I mean, it happens, but unless the show is about that book or comic, it's not the best. And I thought, oh man, I actually have several years of Inktober drawings ready to go, and because they're all 11 by 17, there are ready-made frames for them that are usually half off at Michael's, so there we go. I also plan on publishing all of these in my own little art book that will be called Inky Dinks, because as embarrassed as that term makes me, I'm stuck with it. I've decided I'm gonna own it. Inky Dinks. Here we go. Now, there's a caveat I must throw in here. One of the challenges of Inktober is you make a drawing every day, or you make a drawing every other day. My part of the challenge is I work on one every day. They're finished when they're finished. This one here took, I think, 3 days, and you'll see why. Because the amount of hatching that took place on Nosferatu's coat over here is quite incredible. The penciling alone took a day and a half. Excuse me, because I had to there was a lot of sit down and get up. You know, I have to do my dad stuff. I've got to do husband stuff. I got to cook dinner or whatnot. I was making preparations for the Kickstarter for my new book, so there was a lot that needed to get done. So the challenge is to just work on the thing every every day. And me personally, I'll take it even easier on myself. I actually only work on it every weekday. During the weekends, if I've got time and it doesn't, take away from anybody else, so sure, I'll sit down and draw some more. It's of course, that's great. I used to force myself to draw every weekend, but it turned out that was very unhealthy for me and I needed to stop. But if it fits and it doesn't hurt anybody, I'll draw on the weekends. But usually weekends are reserved for my daughter. Like, give her a weekend. Let's all have fun together. Let's do family stuff. So there we go. Those are my rules. Just work on it. It's done when it's done. And every year or so, around October 20th, I made it to the 25th one time. I stop the challenge. I don't take it all the way to the end of October because at about that time, Megan and I start planning how we're going to decorate the yard and whatnot. The end of October is usually also a crowded month for family reasons, work reasons. So towards the end of the month, I start slacking off on my drawings, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me. Let me let you in on another little secret. My rule is it must be straight, flat, black, and flat white. That's it. No reaching for the gray markers and no reaching for the gray, the gray toned Micron tech pens that I've got. They're actually a Copic, not Micron, but still. I cheat. I'm not going to on this particular drawing, but there's just every third or fourth drawing, there's a portion of the image that I think, it could only be improved with just the tiniest little bit of gray marker here or the tiniest little bit of gray pen over there. And it's very, very sparing. So even my own rules are just more like guidelines than actual hard and fast rules. And that is extremely important. And this is something that I want you to take with you. This is the way that I took the challenge. I took it in my own direction and I'm doing my own thing and I love it and I'm enjoying it and I'm so happy to participate. And that is exactly what I want you to do. Because I noticed, especially from my students and from other young people that I spoke to, Inktober actually represented a certain amount of anxiety. What if I work only digital? Does that count as inking? Oh, but I like to color my stuff, and it's not flat black and white. And apparently other people on the internet are also pointing some fingers and being like, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. That other one, that also doesn't count. And look here, friends, neighbors, loved ones, take a breath. It counts. Everything you're doing counts. It's a drawing challenge made to make more art, build better skills, and to build better art habits. That's it. That's what we're doing here. It's not a contest. It's not an institution. It's just a fun art challenge that a lot of people participate in because it is fun, for crying out loud. That's the name of the game. Approach this with the same spirit of play that you had when you were a kid. That's what we're doing here. We're playing and we're having a good time, and and we're sharing it with each other, which is just perhaps the most glorious bit of art and of this challenge. Is not only so much of art is a solitary thing, and with the hashtag and with our ability to share this, we get to share the fun. We get to play with our friends, and we get to play with our art friends who are across the world in different countries. How cool, how fun is this? So those are my rules, and even I cheat at my rules because they're not rules, they're guidelines. The actual rules of Inktober are also not rules, they're just guidelines. Do your thing. Do whatever you want to do. Now, the essence is to get better at pen and ink drawing. If you are new to digital art, then you know what? This would be a great challenge for you to try to get better at your line work, at your digital line work. Do it. Make it happen. However, it requires more discipline, and you're more apt to make mistakes that you cannot correct if you work on paper. Like the idea of just that ink line is down and now it's just down. It's not going anywhere. Dealing with that, learning how to throw down your ink, building that kind of steadiness of hand, building that kind of confidence, and coping with the amount of anxiety that brings. For some people, that is a lot of anxiety. For some people, not that much. Me personally, I spent so much time penciling this particular image that when it came time to uncap my pen, I freaked out an embarrassing amount. Just like, oh no, I worked so hard. What if I mess it up? dealing with that feeling and just plowing through it is very, very good for you. So in general, I do recommend working with actual ink on actual paper. However, if you want to work digitally, man, that counts. That was a big argument a couple of years ago. If it's digital, it doesn't count. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It counts. We're having fun, we're playing, and we're making art. Did you make art? If the answer is yes, then what you did counts. That's the end of that story. So let's move on slightly. All of the rules, not rules, just guidelines. Doesn't matter where they come from, just guidelines. Alter them to suit you, to suit your needs, and to suit your own idea, your own approach, so that you can come to this in the spirit of play. Play, have fun, and make something great. Here's some ways to help you be successful. Number one, planning. Planning doesn't hurt. I know that I mentioned I used to improvise by throwing down shapes that I liked, and it was fun and it was great, but it also took twice as long because I was exploring with my shapes. And sometimes I need to do that, and for you, I recommend you give it a shot once in a while, but planning, it's not bad. And planning, that's what your sketchbook is for. You throw down the loose lines, the loose shapes, the loose ideas, and you think, would this be cool? And you can make your little thumbnails, and there you go. You work from there. You can also use planning to make this even more to your advantage. Mr. Parker planned out a short children's book / comic, silent, images only, for, I want to say 2015, 2016, I can't remember, but he planned out and made a full-on silent kids book with his Inktober drawings, and it's awesome, and it bloody kills me that it's not been published anywhere, and I will personally give him all of the money in my pocket for a copy of that book because it's awesome. But think how cool that is. You can use this challenge to make the art that you already want to make or already need to make. There's a similar challenge called 24-Hour Comic Book Day, where you and some friends stay up for 24 hours and make a 24-page comic. And I know of people who will not make the 24-page comic, but will stay up with their friends and spend 24 hours making the comic that they were already making. And it's a fun bit of camaraderie that they can share. So planning these things out, that helps. One more example of planning. One of my favorite artists in the whole world is this guy named Rob Momarts. It's R-O-B-B Momarts. It's the Belgian spelling, so it's spelled crazy. It's a very Belgian spelling for a very Wisconsin guy. I am just as privileged as I could be to have one of his first Inktober drawings on my wall right now. I'm looking at it. I look at it every day. It makes me so happy. Anyway, that guy has deeply detailed pen and ink drawings, but he's also a full-time working artist. So this year for Inktober, he planned out his drawings and made little sketches so that when Inktober rolled around, all he really had to do was ink them in. So that's cool, and that works, and that counts. Don't think of it as cheating. It's not cheating. There's no rules. It's all guidelines. Last but not least, the thing that I really want to impart upon you is think of this month and all of the art that you make during this month as part of the challenge as free art. It's when it comes to your own body of work, it doesn't have to. So many of my students feel like, oh, this has got to count. This has got to count. I'm making this thing, and this thing that I'm making has to count. No. Be cool. You can think of this as stuff that doesn't count, and I want you to take that idea, that spirit of play, and what I want you to do is I want you to be fearless. Take risks. Because the risks that you think are huge and far-reaching and just ridiculous, once you've completed it, you have learned so much, and it's when you take those risks, that's when you truly grow. And if you're, so many artists don't want to take art risks because then, oh no, I'll ruin this thing that I worked on. And man, don't do it. Don't have that attitude. Don't think about, I take this risk, I'll ruin something. No. Take the risk, because with the risk, you're growing. Every time, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and it's really not a big deal. See, it's free art. It's just, this is a free one. This doesn't count. I'm doing my best to give you permission to go ahead and look at the art you're going to make for this month and say, this art doesn't count. I'm just taking some risks. And for crying out loud, take those risks, because that's where you learn. That's where you grow. Be bold. Be as bold as you can and take the risks and learn as much as you can, because at the essence of it, the only real hard and fast rule of this challenge is try and get better. That's it. Just do what you can to be a better artist. It's in the rules. It is in the official rules guidelines. Whatever you decide, just be consistent. Inktober is about growing and improving and forming positive habits. And so for me to you personally, one of the best ways to do that is to be bold, take some risks, and relax, and grow, and play, and enjoy yourself, and share with friends, because they'll enjoy it too, I promise. Thanks so much for watching, thanks so much for listening. Take care of yourself, take care of your friends, and make art.